Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Patient, Season 1, Episode 6, Charlie. The episode is rated TVMA, so will this video be? There will be spoilers for the episode and all the ones leading up to it. Now for any of the ones that came out after. And yeah, another episode that I loved. I thought the dissociating thing worked really well. The way they used editing to, show how, where his head's at, where his head's at. Some of it is, he's talking to Charlie, the dead therapist. I personally have found that they give worse advice, or none at all, once they die. But to each their own. And, other than that, he imagines himself, during the Holocaust, being called over by a Nazi. And, that's not, yeah. Those kinds of things would be extremely scary and often end terribly for the people called over. And he also, I think at least twice, pictures himself in a gas chamber. Essentially, like when he's in there with the hole, he imagines that that's what's happening. And it's one of those things, like, it's not that he rationally thinks, oh, this is a gas chamber. It's that's the trauma of that. The character's not old enough to have experienced the Holocaust personally, like been in a camp. I mean, but for Jewish people, it is a significant trauma. And yeah, as usual, I'll just point out, this does not mean that it is okay for the Israeli government to carry out a genocide in Gaza, which obviously I'm not saying every Jewish person thinks that. Zionists do. Not every Jewish person is a Zionist. Not every Zionist is a Jewish person. Now, let's see. I think that might be about... So we saw Candace talk to Sam, and all he says is sorry. He doesn't really fully, I don't know. I mean, on some level, I think the idea is supposed to be that he considers her so passive that she won't call the cops on him because she didn't protect him against, his father. And before I go more into that, I hope, so there's 4 episodes left. I hope that at least one of the remaining episodes will have a conversation between Candace and Alan, even if it ultimately doesn't end to, or lead to, him being free or her taking action against Sam. Just because, like, this was, it seemed like it worked that he called for her and she came down and talked Sam out of killing. It worked once, and then she didn't do it the second time, and Sam killed Elias. And I think I don't know. I hope that in one of the remaining episodes they do acknowledge, I mean, when when Charlie says, well, she's partly to blame for the fact that her son was abused by the son's father. I mean, that's Alan's own thought, or I guess possibly what he thinks Charlie would have said. So I don't know if we're meant to take that as gospel or something, but I think there's room for, and if one of the remaining episodes has a conversation between Alan and Candace, she can point out, hey, it's not actually that easy. because in real life there are reasons why you know when child is being abused by their one of their parents, if the other parent doesn't say or do something, yeah, like it can be very upsetting for the child, and it can look awful to other people as well. But this parent might be thinking of, well, for example, there are a number of cases where if a father was abusing the child, if the mother runs in and tries to protect the child, the father gets increasingly enraged and ends up escalating the violence that he was already committing. It's not that simple. There are considerations. I don't know. I hope that the show does acknowledge that in one of the remaining 4 episodes. I think that does cover. Yeah, so I really appreciated the way that for the first chunk of this episode, Alan barely says anything to anyone other than imaginary Charlie. And let's see, I think that pretty much, yeah. And the way that so he's sitting there talking to Charlie, like we're really seeing the weight that of this, the fact that Elias was killed right in front of him really did, yeah, he's deeply disturbed by that, even more so than already knowing that he was trying to cure a serial killer in the previous episodes. So I think that pretty much brings us to, yeah, right, I love the thing about it. So he, Sam drags the what's it called, jackhammer in, and first he's like trying to unsuccessfully trying to slam the door onto the what wire, I guess it's called, and the electrical wire for the and that is slightly off-putting to Alan. And then he starts using the drill, which also makes like the water move a little. It's a good thing that Alan can hear that it's a jackhammer drill. Otherwise, he might think there's a fucking T-Rex around as well. And that's also where we see that, yeah, there's like, what was it, 2 arrhythmia pills left or something, which is, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm fairly confident that's prescription medication. It's not that something like, if Alan doesn't cure Sam within, I don't know, I can imagine it's 1 per day or something. So within 2 days, let's say, you know, like, it's not like Sam can just get it over the counter. Although that would be obviously very convenient for the situation. No, he's going to have to, yeah, that's a good bit of added tension. And we have seen him take pills, and I think they also mentioned the arrhythmia before. Um, so, but yeah, and then he's trying to dissociate to Charlie. He keeps hearing this goddamn drill. So that was very, very nicely done. And yeah, so Charlie says, well, you used to wrestle, and that's apparently a potential reference to another role that God, suddenly I can't even remember the actor's name. I'm sorry, my wrist's too fucking sore right now to check. But yeah, the Stephen something, and the let's see. We have the, what was the other thing? I think, Charlie, it worked well as like a visual, you know, visualization of the inner dialogue he's having with himself. I mean, maybe Charlie would have suggested this, but like he's talking to himself. Charlie isn't there anymore. So the let's see, he is he's yes, and the you have the thing with because it's one of those things like I think if it had been like voiceover, that wouldn't have worked as well. Um, yeah, a visual, and it also, he even calls it out himself. He's dissociating, and let's see. Yeah, I like the detail that for most of this episode, the body's still lying there, and like first scene is morning, so yeah, we saw how dark the light was outside at the end, when Sam killed Elias. So for Alan, like for Sam, this happens, but Alan not only witnessed the murder, but now the body's also been there in the same room with him, since, so yeah, overnight, which again is obviously deeply upsetting for a Jewish person, considering they went through the Holocaust, where I don't know, it's almost too depressing to even I mean, I'll just note that during the Holocaust, some Jewish people were forced to deal with the corpses of the other Jewish people, the ones that had already been killed by the Nazis. So that's obviously, yeah, this situation is deeply upsetting for Alan as a Jewish person. And I think that might bring us to the, let's see. Right, and Sam talks to Alan and says, well, now I'm one of those people who bury corpses in the basement, so thank you for that. So you're blaming him. You were the one, like, just, yeah. Because in Sam's mind, the problem here is primarily where he killed, Elias. The yeah, just so fucking yeah. Um, and again underlines the fact that, okay, yeah. So that's not a criticism of the show. I'm saying that's how fucked up Sam is, mentally and emotionally, and it's good writing, and the fact that it really underlines, yeah, he lacks empathy. That's such a fucked up thing to say, and let's see, I think, because like it's very clear, this situation was much more upsetting for Alan than it was for Sam. For Sam, it's basically just annoying. He had already been planning to kill Elias at some point. Maybe like the fucking timetable changed or whatever, but Alan has never seen someone killed right in front of him. And let's see, so we have the, yeah, one thing that we got out of the Charlie thing was and another thing we got out of that was, you still have some fight left in you, and that's what we see later in the episode. So they're doing a good job throughout these episodes of, someone will say something and then Alan will act on it in one way or another. let's see. I think that pretty much, yeah, someone will say something to Alan. Sometimes, yeah, whatever. Moving on. Yeah, so let's see. Then we have, yeah, and he's, first the chain is unlocked, and he says, keep that distance, and then he locks him in the smaller room, which is also where Elias was kept for a while and that he was terrified by. And then he says, you have to dig. And, I wonder if Sam, yeah, at first Alan digs one way and then Sam tells him, no, you have to dig this other way. I wonder if Sam thinks he's a goddamn saint for not immediately beating the shit out of Alan like his father would have. And it's just wild to me that he actually fucking said, thanks for that. Yeah. Moving on. Well, let's see. So yeah, he spends a while digging the hole. And the really frustrating thing is, as soon as he's done, he's just gonna have to dig another hole for the dirt from the first hole. And let's see, we have the yeah, you have the thing about, so he's about to, he basically wants or needs Alan's help to the with the body, I think it is, or maybe it's spreading dirt on the body afterwards. I'm not entirely sure, but he asks, yeah, and right, and they also have the conversation about we have to develop your empathy, which it's very clever because that was what he talked to Charlie about, like and I appreciate the point made. A lot of people need to you know improve their empathy, and sadly very true. And then we have the thing with the yeah, they talk about, well, could they find it, and well, let's think about this. They didn't find you before, there must have been DNA evidence on those. If you've never been arrested, you know, uh, you shouldn't be in any database, because this episode was made, like 3 years ago or something, rather than, because like I'm pretty sure some of the tech billionaires are trying to make sure we're all in a fucking database just based on, yeah. Moving on. Let's see. I think, yeah, I'll just briefly note. One thing I heard reported, for example, was that there is an app that that ICE will scan someone's face with, and if the app says that this person is an illegal immigrant, then they are arrested. And yeah, I mean, God damn it, I forget if it's already been noted that sometimes the app makes mistakes, but they just roll with it, or if it's just, well, I mean, I'm sorry, but what fucking app never makes a mistake? Like, that's, yeah. ICE just gets worse and worse. Every fucking new thing we hear about them is just like, Jesus Christ, you guys, you're really, really hoping that that this whole thing is just gonna last forever and you're never gonna be held accountable. Like, I'm not calling for violence against them. Violence should always be the last resort, but I don't know. I feel like this is in future history books. There's gonna be like something written about, well, they thought they were gonna be safe because they hid their faces and badges and shit. but a bunch of them were found and put on trial, and the worst of them were severely punished. That shouldn't be necessary for them to stop, the fear that that might happen, but I think it's pretty clear for a bunch of them that's the only way they're going to stop. But let's see. I think that might be right. And to be clear, when I say I'm not calling for violence, I am not calling for violence, but I'm also not going along with the narrative that, they're just constantly being violently attacked. No, they are constantly violently attacking others. Sometimes people call them out for it, maybe film them, maybe stand in the way of one of their vehicles or that sort of thing. But like, there's not the violence tends to come from them, and yeah, just a documented fact. Just yeah. Moving on. The let's see. Um, yeah, and I appreciate, they're continuing to do this thing where when Alan talks Sam into something, he is, actually making good arguments, and he's managing to stay calm, even though, oh, Charlie, you too, the fucking breathing, you sound like Beth right now, and he even says, I'm worried that he's gonna realize that I'm, because like, yeah, he is not as calm as he appears. And that is also something, I don't know if this is something that came up in research, or if it was something they already knew, but it is true that there are, therapists who are able to project a calm, but like on the inside they are not as calm as they appear on the outside. But there are a number of mental health patients who need the stability, of so um, yeah, that is a, and in the extreme circumstance of being kidnapped and face to face with a serial killer, yeah, it's a good, yeah, additional source of tension. And I think that does pretty well bring us to the so yeah, he manages to convince him, and he also says, hey, the we need to get you to think about the family. It's better for the family if there is, a body found. And he talks for a little bit about Jewish custom when it comes to grieving, and the he perhaps goes into more detail than he needed to, but he is making the point that um, the something is necessary here, and I think that might be about, yeah. And the thing about, so you're saying I should say that prayer, and I'm not Jewish myself. I'm an atheist, so no longer an anti-theist though. But I can imagine that what Sam just said was, let's see, is it called sacrilegious when it's, I can never remember if sacrilege is specifically referring to when it's the Christian faith, or if it's religion in general. The way that, a church is a Christian thing, like, for example, if it's Muslim, it's mosque, not church. But anyway, I can imagine that what he said, and certainly it is like, even for some, I'm not religious, but I can appreciate it's deeply offensive for him to, like, no, dude, you fucking murdered him. You're not the one saying the prayer. That's his family, his loved ones, So good job on that. Again, this dark humor. And I think that pretty much brings us to, um, I guess I'll briefly note, so there is the you have the what's the word? God damn it! I swear it's on the tip of my tongue. You have the thing where you have the flashback. You know, he's talking about, well, you know, I lost Beth. Now my own son isn't talking to me. And then he sees a, you know, a flyer calling for a march against, I think it said the Zionists, and it had the swastika on it. And it's one of those things that plays very different today, but I appreciate, you know, back then, like in 2022, this was a reference to, um, I think it was called the Unite the Right rally, you know, the one where they stomped around with their fucking tiki torches because the master race is incapable of making a goddamn torch. Fucking cavemen knew how to do this shit. Jesus Christ. And, you know, for those who might not know, tiki torch, that's not a white person thing. Shit, I forget. It's maybe Hawaiian, I think. Tiki, anyway. You know, I mean, one of the things they chanted while stomping around trying to look tough was blood and soil, which, like, okay, so you kind of just went copy paste from, like, shit Hitler said and had people say, put it into Google Translate to get it from German into English, because, like, blood and soil, when the Nazis of World War II said that, it referenced something, but the context is completely different for American Nazis today. So you're just showing you don't know what the fuck you're even saying. You're just saying it because you know that it's Nazi shit. Like, are these the thought leaders, the ones who are gonna save the West from, you know, the invading, like, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm sorry, I'm just saying, I'm not a Nazi. I'm glad I'm not. If I were, I'd be fucking embarrassed by that. I'd hate them more than immigrants and such. And no, there is no fucking white replacement. Goddamn, read a fucking book. Jesus Christ. I don't have it in me to explain white replacement right now. There are other leftist YouTubers who've done a really solid job. Anyway, getting distracted. One of the things, and workup, one of the things that they did chant there was, the Jews will not replace us. That was also, you know, before they chanted that, they said, you will not replace us. And I remember there were, you know, leftists at the time saying, who's you? What the fuck are you talking about? You know, and then, oh, Jews will not replace us, so you're talking about white replacement theory. You know, the is there perhaps something ironic to the fact that, you know, so if you say the word genocide to a neo-Nazi today, they might say, oh, that's not really happening, calm down. But then if you add, no, I meant white genocide, then they're like, oh yeah, that's totally happening. The one genocide that isn't fucking happening. Jesus Christ. Moving on. Yeah. So that's obviously what is being referenced here. It is one of those things where, like, today, you know, as there are crackdowns on, you know, pro-Palestinian protesters at colleges who are literally, like, you get that they pay to attend college, and some of their money is being used to drop bombs on children. If you don't understand how that makes it okay to protest, that's something worthy to protest. I don't think there's anything worthy of protest anymore. Like, yeah, very recently there have been crackdowns on them. I think it's especially the fact that the flyer, one of the reasons why the show is gone. And God damn it, I don't remember. I don't remember hearing in 2022 about like of crackdown on pro-Palestinian protesters. I mean, 2022, that was before October 7th. There was already a genocide going on in Gaza. It was less like supercharged than it is today. Um, yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong, but from what I don't remember hearing about it at the very least. So I don't know. I hope that the show is not, in favor of the genocide. But yeah, if this had been released today for the first time, I would definitely have said, okay, so yeah, they're just equating, because that's the thing. Like, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. There are anti-Semites who are Zionists. And yeah, there are some anti-Zionists who are anti-Semitic. So call them out. Don't equate all anti-Zionism to anti-Semitism, because that actually makes anti-Semitism worse. It doesn't lead to less anti-Semitism. It means there are people who are like, well, I mean, I don't hate Jewish people, but I want the genocide in Gaza to stop. I want the Israeli government to stop murdering children. I don't know. I mean, am I anti-Semitic? I don't know. Maybe that's, and that's not exactly something you want to happen. Like, it's already been proven to fail. This, because they've been doing it for a long time. The tactic that did not start October 7th, much like the genocide itself. And note that I keep underlining, we're talking about the Israeli government. We're talking about the IDF. We're not talking about, like, if you see a random Jewish person on the street, they might have, they have nothing to do with the genocide. And if you meet someone and they're a Zionist, use words, not violence. And again, I don't have to say this to leftists pretty much, but we are now seeing, about fucking time, that there are some conservatives that are becoming anti-Zionist after support of Israel has long been yeah, a given for American conservatives, at the very least in public. But other than the fucking groypers, but yeah, some of them have to be told not to use violence. Wish that were not so, but the numbers don't lie. And I mean, I'm not saying they're perfect. Numbers make some mistakes. 7, 8, 9. I don't think that should be forgotten. But let's see. Yeah, hopefully the show was criticizing neo-Nazis, not equating, anti-Zionist protests at colleges to neo-Nazism. Yeah, let's see. I think that does bring us to, let's see. It was an interesting ending with Beth. Um, I mean, it's a positive song, so I think the idea is that it's representing that he is, cautiously optimistic about, maybe this will lead to him, you know, being freed by cops. I think that might bring us let's see. So yeah, he manages to convince Sam, and I love the shot where so off in the background we see Sam emptying. He's even out of focus. The focus is pulled purely on Alan, and yeah, we see Sam. It's an unmistakable. We've all seen some. Many of us have done it. The cup is almost empty, so screw the lid off and hold it up to mouth and drink the way that you would without a straw. Up to that point he was drinking from the cup using a straw, which means he's now drunk every last drop in that thing, and we know what that means because that was set up, and yeah. Sam, Sam goes out into the bathroom, and Alan writes, the pertinent information on a piece of paper, crumples it up, and then he has to put it in Elias's mouth, and it's so, god damn it, it's so fucked up. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't watch media like this if I couldn't handle it, but that is really fucked up. We really came to care about Elias, and we specifically, like, most impressions we got from him were through his mouth, the words he was saying, and now Alan has to shove the paper in there and shove it far enough down that it doesn't fall out, and then afterwards, Alan and us did not think about the fact that or the possibility that Sam was gonna flip the body over. So now it's like, oh shit, is the paper gonna stay in his mouth or is it gonna fall out? Just yeah. Because like if it falls out and Sam sees, that's it. Like there's no way for Alan to sugarcoat that. That's the clear attempt at being freed. So I think that does pretty much cover this entire episode. Yeah, really excited to see. So yeah, 4 episodes left. I'm honestly not entirely sure how there is that much, but I continue to be deeply engaged. Um, but yeah, so as mentioned, it's the thing about so when Sam goes to the bathroom, him it's been set up more, and there's been reminders, yeah, he will stand there urinating for a, like, I'm not saying unhealthy long time, but they've underlined, yeah, he sure does, you know yeah, that is it's long enough, it's enough time to perhaps do something if there was something that would make any sense to attempt to do for an escape attempt or something, which yeah, I really appreciate them paying off on it in this episode. um I don't know, I wasn't like getting impatient. I'm not saying that if all that had been happening there was the toilet being pissed in, that I would have been pissed off.